Hi, it's Diana. Today I'm going to show you how to make stuffed peppers. The ingredients we're using are ground beef, red onion, garlic, salt, pepper, a little bit of shredded Parmigiano Reggiano, some rice, and some bell peppers. First, we're going to get our rice going in the rice cooker. I just have 1 scoop of rice here, and in my rice cooker, I just fill it up to the number 1 line with water. And then it's going to go right into the rice cooker, and I'm going to set the lever down to cook. Next, let's dice our red onion. I only need about half of this, so I'm going to trim off the end. I'm going to cut this in half. Then we peel the dry skin off the edge. And then remember, when we dice, we start with straight down cuts, but we don't cut all the way through the root end. We want to use that root to hold our slices together. So when we turn our onion 90 degrees to do the dice, everything is nice and together, and I don't have to worry about holding it together so much with my fingers. Now notice that my hands are in that nice claw position that's holding the onion, so I'm protecting my fingertips by rolling them underneath. And if I start to feel like I'm getting too close to my fingers, I'm just going to go ahead and stop cutting. That's some good knife safety skills right there. Let's prepare the garlic next. I'm going to pull 3 cloves off of this bunch here. And remember to release the skin. I'm just going to use my chef's knife and smash it on the side, and that's going to help splay those skins open so I can just pull them off really easily. To start the mince, I'm going to line up the garlic cloves so the long edges are next to each other, and then I just run my knife making planks with these garlic cloves, and then I'm going to turn the whole bunch 90 degrees so I can get a little dice on them. Notice I'm tucking my fingers under and making that claw so none of my fingertips are sticking out. That's good knife safety skills right there. And when I start getting to the end, just want to be really careful, go a little bit slower. And then I'm going to pile all that garlic up, just hold the tip of my knife down and run the back side of the knife from side to side, making a nice mince on all of that garlic. I also decided to add some carrots to this recipe. Anytime I'm using a ground meat like ground beef and stuffing it inside the pepper, I do actually like to sneak in some extra vegetables. So for this, I'm going to dice a couple carrots. And normally I do this with large, like regular size carrots, but today I just have these baby carrots, so I'm gonna make them work. Now you can see that I try to cut those into a dice. It seemed like it was taking me a little bit of a long time, so I'm gonna try shredding them and see how that goes. Now normally shredding also isn't great with baby carrots. They're kind of hard to hold on to. You don't get a lot of shred before you have to stop working with that end. So I'm gonna see how this goes. This is just an alternate way that you can do it. Now when you get down to the end of a carrot, you do need to be really careful with your fingers and make sure that you don't shred your fingertip. Once you come to the end of shredding your carrots, you're going to want to wipe off the shredded carrots that are sticking to your grater. So you're going to turn it upside down. You're going to run your finger along with the blade so you don't grate your finger. You want to just run it the opposite way that the blades are sticking up on the grater. So, I decided that shredding wasn't going to really work for me. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to dice a couple more of these. So notice when I start with my baby carrot, I cut 1 or 2 planks, and then I flip it down to lay the flat side on the cutting board, and then I turn the entire batch 90 degrees to get that square dice. And all the while, tuck my fingertips in to make that claw. Practice your good knife skills so you don't accidentally cut the tip of your finger. I'm going to cut until I reach 1 cup of carrots here. I think that'll be a great amount to add to this recipe. Let's move over to our pan. Here I've preheated this large pan over a medium to a medium-high heat. I'm going to add probably about a tablespoon of avocado oil and let that heat up before I come in with my aromatics, which are my onion and my garlic. I'm going to let the onion and garlic cook down for a minute or 2, and then I'll add the carrots. As we add the carrots in here, my goal is to get them to start cooking down and start getting softer So when we stuff them into our peppers, everything is going to be about the same texture, a nice cooked soft texture, so I don't have a lot of crunch from the carrots coming through with the filling. Sprinkle some salt and pepper onto this layer, give it some nice seasoning. We'll add our ground beef next. This is about 1.25 pounds of ground beef, and I'm going to use my spoon spatula to break it up. There's a safety aspect to ground beef that we haven't talked about yet in this class, and that is, since the beef goes through a grinding process, all surfaces of the beef are exposed to air and potentially bacteria. So we want to make sure that we cut up this ground beef as much as we can and cook every single part of it possible. So as we cook this meat, we can't use a meat thermometer as we have in other lessons to cook, say, a pork chop or a piece of chicken. It just really doesn't work to stick a meat thermometer in this ground beef. So I'm going to be mashing and flipping this ground beef several times throughout the cooking process. And you're going to watch the color. It's going to go from that red to a pink to completely brown, which means that it's all cooked. And that is really the only way that you can tell that your meat is going to be cooked, just by watching that color and watching the progression. So you want to make sure to really mash and break up all of those larger pieces to make sure every single part of this ground beef is cooked all the way through. You did notice me there sprinkle some red pepper flakes on this ground beef layer. That's going to add just a nice depth of flavor, a tiny bit of punch, but it's not going to make it really spicy. So just a small pinch will do right there. Salt and pepper on this layer is also going to add a ton of flavor. I'm going to show you here how to prep a large bell pepper to be stuffed. So I washed this one, and I'm going to use my small paring knife to just cut straight down around that core, and then I'll just pull those seeds out. I'm also going to put my hands inside and try to pull out some more of the ribs and the seeds just to get that a little bit cleaner inside. You can also tap it on your hand or tap it on the cutting board to get some of those loose seeds to fall straight out. And now that pepper can go ahead and be stuffed with your filling. If you prefer, if this pepper is too much for one serving, you can cut your bell pepper in half and you can stuff each of the halves. Here I have my washed bell peppers. Now I'm using mini peppers here, and actually this size pepper is going to be great for an appetizer size or just a smaller portion, especially if you're feeding kids. They don't necessarily need a huge bell pepper. So these have been washed. I'm cutting them all in half, and then I'll go ahead and peel the seeds. There's no magic trick to peeling the seeds out. I just use my thumb, push in at the end of the stem, and use my fingers to pull the rib and the seeds out. Let's mix up some filling. So our rice is done cooking. I'm going to take just about a half a cup of that. I'm going to add a half a cup of our ground beef, onion and garlic, carrot filling to that. Mix it all together, and then I'll just use a little spoon to stuff the peppers. As I stuff the peppers, press it down in so the filling is nice and packed in. That's going to make it easier when you eat and when you bite into it, so it's not going to completely fall apart. So I just lay my filled stuffed peppers in the baking pan, and then I'm going to get out some of that nice shredded Parmesan and just sprinkle a tiny bit on the top. Now this cheese, of course, is optional. I just really like a sprinkle of Parmesan because I think it gives the recipe a nice little tang, which is really enjoyable when you eat it. Now these finished peppers are going to go into a 350 oven for 10 minutes, just enough to soften the peppers. Here are those finished bell peppers straight out of the oven. The cheese is a little bit melted, a little bit brown on top, and that's exactly how I like them. Enjoy!